Hi, and welcome to this professional disposition about digital citizenship. Today, my name is Ashley, and I'll be speaking along with Courtney, Callie, Kristen, Taylor, and Matthew. What is digital citizenship? It's all about connecting collaboration and safety within the classroom, especially with the amount of time spent on the internet. Topics to help students through school involve like internet safety, relationships and communication, digital footprints and reputation, informational literacy, privacy and security, cyberbullying and digital drama, self-image and identity, and creative credit and copyright. All of these come together to bring a roundabout of just anything that goes on the internet. Students need to learn how to be safe and legal within the way they use it. On the next slide, you'll see internet safety is kind of what students put out into the world. So there's a lot of online predators, and they need to be aware of strangers. And when it comes to that, they need to be educated on the fact that whatever they put on the internet stays on the internet. It doesn't go anywhere. And that along goes with relationships and communication. Social media is rapid within and abundant within society today, and students see that with cyberbullying as well. They need to recognize the audience as they post things and then imagine the emotions behind the posts because it can make or break relationships. The digital footprint and reputation itself also is affected. Privacy laws in their own privacy. They need to remember again, posts are forever. And also the culture of sharing. Like I said, everything stays on the internet. Information literacy is also important, especially when it comes to research. They need to be able to find and evaluate information and think critically about it. And that also goes with applying strategy to searching and how they can evaluate information. Privacy and security, that has to do with more passwords and privacy and how to spot scams. Students should be aware that they shouldn't have the same password for all the sites, along with complicated passwords, even though they might be hard to remember. It's important to use words, different numbers, or even symbols. Cyberbullying and digital drama, this is huge today, especially for younger kids. They need to be able to understand that it's a social environment that can really affect their day-to-day lives. So they need to be aware of overall misuse. They need to be able to identify negative behavior and how to create positive online communities. It also goes along with self-image and identity. They need to know how to present themselves and be aware of the motivations of others online. And that also goes back to safety. Creative credit and copyright is the final thing that they really need to understand. They need to understand that they have their own copyright, but there's also infringement and ethics behind copyright laws. And that about sums up that. Next is scope and sequence regarding digital citizenship.
Scope and sequence. Scope and sequence consists of 3 units for grade bands K to 2, 3 to 5, and 6 to 8, and 4 units for grades 9 to 12. Each unit is composed of 5 lessons, which spiral to address a cross-curricular approach. The units build on each other by reinforcing developmentally appropriate topics. The cross-curricular approach covers internet safety, privacy and security, relationships and communication, cyberbullying and digital drama, digital footprint and reputation, self-image and identity, information literacy, and creative credit and copyright. For grades kindergarten to 2nd grade, in Unit 1, there are 5 lessons that will be discussed. Going places safely, ABC searching, keep it private, my creative work, and sending email. After Unit 1 is completed, students will be able to answer the following questions. How do you go places safely on the computer? How can you use the alphabet to find things online? What kinds of information should you keep to yourself when you use the internet? How can you give credit to your own creative work? And how do you connect with others through the email? Next, I'll talk about Unit 2. The 5 lessons are staying safe online, follow the digital trial, screen out the mean, using keywords, and sites I like. After Unit 2, students will be able to answer the following questions. How do you stay safe when you visit a website? What information is okay to have in your digital footprint? What can you do when someone is mean to you online? Which keywords will give you the best search results? And what makes a website a right site for you? The 5 lessons in Unit 3 are powerful passwords, my online community, things for sale, show respect online, and writing good emails. After this unit, students will be able to answer the following questions. How do you create a secure password? How does the internet connect you with others? How do some websites try to get you to buy things? How can you make sure your emails are clear and respectful? And how is writing an email similar or different from writing a letter? After each unit, the teacher should create an assessment. For grades 3 to 5, Unit 1 is Rings of Responsibility, Private and Personal Information, The Power of Words, The Key to Keywords, and Who's It Anyway? After Unit 1 is completed, students will be able to answer the following questions. What kinds of responsibilities does a good citizen have? How can you protect yourself from online identity theft? What should you do when someone uses mean or scary language on the internet? Which keywords will give you the best search results? And how can you respect other people's work? Unit 2 is Strong Passwords, Digital Citizenship Pledge, You've Won a Prize, How to Cite a Site, and Picture Perfect. After this unit, students will be able to answer the following questions. How can you secure a password? Help you to protect your private information? How do you create a positive online community? What is spam and what can you do about it? How do you cite different types of online sources? And how can photos be changed on the computer? And how does that affect your feeling about the way you look? Unit 3 is on Talking Safely Online, Super Digital Citizen, Privacy Rules, What's Cyberbullying, and Selling Stereotypes. After Unit 3 is completed, students will be able to answer the following questions. What's the difference between internet friends and in-person friends? How can people help others to be good digital citizens? How do you know if a website protects your private information? What is cyberbullying and how do you deal with it? And how do we learn stereotypes of boys and girls from media messages?
So for grades 6 through 8, the first unit's lessons are Digital Life 101, Strategic Searching, Scams and Schemes, Cyberbullying, Be Upstanding, and A Creator's Rights. And by the end of Unit 1, students should be able to answer what is the place of digital media in our lives, what steps can you find, and what you're looking for what you're searching online, what is identity theft and how can you protect yourself from it, how do you judge the intentions and impacts of people's words and actions online, and what rights do you have as a creator. Unit 2 for grades 6 through 8, the lessons are My Media, A Creator's Responsibilities, Safe Online Talk, Which Me Should I Be, and Gender Stereotypes Online. By the completion of Unit 2, students should be able to answer the following questions. What are your personal media habits, and how much time do you spend with different forms of media? What responsibilities do you have to respect others' creative work? How should you handle inappropriate online talk? What are the outcomes of presenting yourself in different ways online? And what are gender stereotypes and how can they shape our experiences online? Unit 3 for grades 6 through 8, the lessons are Trillion Dollar Footprint, Identifying High Quality Sites, The Reality of Digital Drama, Cyberbullying, Crossing the Line, and Rework, Reuse, Remix. By the completion of Unit 3, students should be able to answer what is a digital footprint and what does yours convey? What can you trust? What can you find on the internet? Does the way that we think about digital drama have anything to do with gender? When does inappropriate online behavior cross the line to cyberbullying and what can you do about it? And what rights do you have as a creator? Okay, so then moving on to the units and lessons for grades 9 through 12. The first unit's lessons include Digital Life 102, Oops, I Broadcasted on the Internet, Copyrights and Wrongs, Feeling on Display, and Turn Down the Dial on Cyberbullying. By the end of Unit 1, students should be able to answer, what is the place of digital media in our lives? What are the consequences of oversharing online? How can I make responsible choices when I use other people's creative work? Are girls and guys judged differently when they post photos online? And which factors intensify cyberbullying and online cruelty, and what can you do to lessen them? Unit 2 for grades 9 through 12, the lessons include My Online Code, Who Are You Online, Building Community Online, Overexposed, Sexting and Relationships, and Risky Online Relationships. And by the end of Unit 2, students should be able to answer, what does it mean to do the right thing online? How do you present yourself to the world online and offline? How can websites foster community online? What are the risks and responsibilities when you share online in a relationship? And how can you tell when an online relationship is risky? For Unit 3 for grades 9 through 12, the lessons are Rights, Remixes, and Respect, Taking Perspectives on Cyberbullying, What's the Big Deal About Internet Privacy, Becoming a Web Celeb, and College Bound. And the questions that students should be able to answer by the completion of Unit 3 are, what should you consider when you use other people's creative work? How does online cruelty affect the people involved? How do websites collect your personal information and what can you do about it? What does it mean to become an internet celebrity? And how can information you post on the internet affect your future opportunities? And the final unit for grades 9 through 12 includes lessons on private today, public tomorrow. Does it matter who has your data? Breaking down hate speech, retouching reality, and collective intelligence. And by the completion of Unit 4, students should be able to answer, how can you respect the privacy of others online? What are the upsides and downsides of companies collecting your data online? How can you create a community culture in which hate speech is unacceptable both online and offline? What are the creative and ethical aspects of digital photo manipulation? And what are the benefits and drawbacks of people working together to create information online?
So the next part is games and interactives. And with the student games and interactives, you can choose from 3 games. These games are Digital Passport for grades 3 through 5, Digital Compass for grades 6 through 8, and Digital Bytes for grades 6 through 12. So for the first one which is Digital Passport, grades 3 through 5. It teaches about digital citizenship and how to use the internet safely. It includes 5 modules, which are interactive and enjoyable for any student in grades 3 through 5. Are Talkers, or number 1, which is Talkers. Students not to multitask with a cell phone and learn how to focus on one task at a time. Jumper. Students can view online messages. The information is appropriate to share and when. They also learned that anything on the internet is never truly private or erasable. Evolve. Students can make a choice about what to do if someone they know is being cyberbullied. They evolve to take action against cyberbullying. Number 4 is Search Shark. The students will learn about how to use effective keywords when doing a search. Mix and Mash. The students change while giving credit to the artists that they use. One is Digital Compass, which is grades 6 through 8. Students can explore how digital decision making can affect their lives, such as their relationships and futures. A storyline where they can choose their own path is when completing each section. This is available in both English and Spanish, iOS, and Android. The next one is Digital Bytes, which is grades 6 through 12 or ages 13 and up. Students have the space to explore real-world digital citizenship issues. Their ideas for making smart, safe, and creative choices online through student-directed media-rich activities. Projects with their peers smart online choices. Digital Bites is good for after school programs as well as blended learning classrooms. Badges for the completion of each section.
For curriculum in grades K through 2, the role of digital citizenship in these grades are important for developing digital literacy within the young children. I've learned through the tutorial that I had to go through to learn about the curriculum that it is never too early to teach young children about digital citizenship in the context of early childhood programs refers to the need for adults to help children develop an emerging understanding of the use, misuse, and abuse of technology and the norms that are appropriate, responsible, and ethical behaviors related to online rights, roles, identity, safety, security, and communication. The lesson that was covered for these grade levels was taught by the school librarian to a group of first graders. The students to become digital detectives and observe things that may be safe or unsafe in the digital community. They would analyze the material using their reading skills. The students were placed into groups and given 12 cards or clues that had examples of safe/unsafe use of the internet. As to decipher and analyze the bits and pieces of information that they are given. To learn or had a team captain to state which of their cards was unsafe use of internet safety. One of the examples was listing your full name on the internet, and another table had the example of giving out your address. After this was completed, the groups would take their clues and decide who did the best at being safe on the internet and the worst as well. Work was finished, they went back and defined some of the things that they looked at, such as the words digital and footprints, so the kids got a clear understanding of them. Lastly, the students summarized what was safe and unsafe by making a teach chart at each table, listing ways they can be safe and unsafe on the internet based on what they had learned in the lesson. This lesson is great for teaching young children about digital citizenship because the lesson clearly supported reading and communication skills and made face-to-face connections and connections within the digital world. Through 5, the developmental changes in students through these grades also go through increased independence with their use of technology, which means that many of the behavioral issues kids experience can be exacerbated with digital media. Schools will have to provide more ramifications, internet safety, cyberbullying, and online privacy. They will also have to help students develop critical thinking and information literacy skills, such as evaluating websites and avoiding plagiarism. Digital citizenship provides skills students need to thrive in today's society. The lesson that was provided in these grade levels was called the Super Digital Citizen lesson. It modified the existing low-tech superhero and comic activity into a digital media creation activity. He has students apply digital citizenship tenets to superhero characteristics. It was taught to a group of 5th graders. A quote from Spider-Man, "With great power comes great responsibility," and related it to internet safety. He asked the students what are some examples of not being safe and responsible when on the internet, such as giving personal information. Them to build a comic showing safety, responsibility, and respectfulness, where they have to make up a superhero that saves the day, or what's called a digital citizen superhero. They got on their laptops and used a template online to create a superhero. They got to take pictures of themselves using the same website and created a comic strip new about being a good digital citizen. They took a gallery finished and looked at everyone's creations and used whether they are examples of safety, an issue of responsibility, an issue of respect. Some students' creations was of a Supergirl that stopped people from gossiping online. Another was of someone putting their personal information in to win a free iPad, and the superhero came and saved the day to stop that person from doing that. Lastly, the teacher asked some volunteers to share their creations with other students that they liked. So these are great examples of lessons for digital citizenship in both of these grades levels.
So the next one is K through 8. I kind of combined them because they were very similar because they're very close in age. But it was K through 8 and then 12, obviously. But the important thing to look at is who teaches these lessons, how to incorporate them, what to incorporate in them, when to conduct them, where they should be taught, and why this is important. And it shouldn't just be one teacher teaching these lessons. Now, some schools do that, but it should also be a team effort, not just one, but maybe a couple, 4 or 5 even, and they incorporate it into math or science, not just an individual class that's dedicated to it. Now, that's also effective, but it's even more beneficial to actually include it in it. And that's where you come to like pick and choose what you should teach. It's based on the class. Some students may need to learn a little bit more about privacy, but some might need to learn a little bit more about safety. When it should be taught, this can be probably most beneficial at the beginning of the semester or school year, because that's when they're signing acceptable use policies, and it's a great time to try to incorporate it into that. And there's even a week, the Digital Citizenship Week, that they celebrate in October, so that might be even a good time to try to teach lessons about it. Like I said, it shouldn't just be like a standalone topic, although that, like I said, it can work. It's better to incorporate them into multiple subjects if possible. And why is it important? Well, the social media world nowadays, and everything, like you guys have been saying, is posted out there once you've posted it, and it's permanent. And so it's important to teach these skills to them at as early an age as possible. But of course, this is an important age because colleges are going to be looking at them, schools alone, job opportunities when they're in high school, and then further on, of course. So it's important that they learn it early what they should be posting, and it should be positive. And for one example of a lesson that was incorporated into the curriculum was the $1 trillion footprint, which was mentioned earlier. That one was more for middle school to 6 through 8. And they started off by looking at the teacher's digital footprint. So they just Googled the teacher's name. And so you see whatever he's posted and what he's been involved with the community. And so the students actually got to see a prime example of what is displayed about their teacher. And so they would get a little bit of an understanding of once you post something, it's out there and anyone can look it up. As you saw, he just looked it up in the video. So that was like the warm up. And most of these lessons were about 45 minutes. So that was like 10 minutes. And so then they broke up into groups of 4 or plus. And they were to create a game show called the $1 Trillion Footprint. And so they were deciding between 2 candidates to be on the show. And they were given only brief information about each candidate, and they had to judge based off of what they were given. And so there's room for interpretation. Some people might have leaned one way versus the other on certain characteristics, and things were left out, and it was up to them to research it either through Facebook or Google or whatever they could find about information that could help them come to a conclusion as a group. And then at the end, they all gave their answers, and they debated over why they chose who. Some chose one person, some chose the other. So it was a good conversation to have at the end to wrap it all up. Very similarly, the 9 through 12 lesson that they showed in the module was called College Bound, which was also mentioned earlier, which more so talked about their digital footprint and how that can impact their career goals in the future. Like I said, which was very similar to the other one. So that started with just an open discussion about college prep, because I believe that's what the class was actually about. So that was like a dedicated class to getting the students prepared for the college life. So I believe they were in 12th grade. And so the students actually created, it's not digital, but it's the handwritten digital footprint, just a couple different ones like describing themselves or what they would want to be described as when they are in their careers. So it was probably like five-year plan. So they got to play the role of trying to figure out these 2 candidates that were coming to a school, because they got to play college admission officers. And I believe they broke up also into groups of 4. And it was up to them to decide between 2 high school candidates that had similar grades, similar characteristics. But it was up to them to decide between the 2 students who would get into the college. And so, of course, they looked at the grades, what they were into, sports or academic activities. So again, it was minimum information, and they had to come to a conclusion based off of what they were given and the impression they received off of these digital footprints that were being left behind. And so at the end, again, the students got to discuss what they came up with. And again, there was a lot of debate over who should have been chosen, because both candidates were good. And some of the students at the end of the video talked about why it was difficult and how it can impact themselves, because some students may be doing like average work, nothing exceptional. They're not like helping out the community, but they're doing A's and B's in school. But another student might be doing A's and B's, but also helping the community, and that student might be more likely to get into a college. And so they kind of looked at that perspective from these lessons, and I thought that was a good Socratic seminar that they had at the end. And these were the references that we used.
Thank you for listening to our presentation.